Availability heuristic is a psychological phenomenon that profoundly influences our decisions, often leading us down a path of misjudgment. It's astonishing how frequently we rely on vivid memories rather than actual probabilities to guide our choices. Get ready to uncover the hidden forces that shape your perceptions and discover how this cognitive bias secretly steers your life. One of the foundational frameworks for understanding availability heuristic is the concept of cognitive biases, which was extensively researched by psychologists Amos Tversky and Daniel Kahneman in the 1970s. Their work laid the groundwork for our modern understanding of how mental shortcuts, like the availability heuristic, influence our decision-making processes. According to Tversky and Kahneman's prospect theory, people tend to judge the likelihood of an event based on how easily examples come to mind, rather than on the actual probability of the event. This is where the term availability comes from. It refers to the ease with which relevant instances or examples are retrieved from memory. The more vivid or memorable an event is, the more available it is in our minds, and thus, the more likely we overestimate its probability. A classic example that illustrates this concept is the fear of flying versus the fear of driving. Many people are terrified of flying, despite the fact that air travel is statistically much safer than driving a car. This disparity can be attributed to the availability heuristic. Plane crashes are highly publicized and vividly remembered, making them seem more likely to occur than they actually are. In contrast, car accidents, although far more common, receive less dramatic coverage and thus are perceived as less threatening. My experience with clients has shown that this bias can have significant implications in everyday life, particularly when it comes to risk assessment and decision-making. For instance, someone who has recently experienced a burglary may overestimate the likelihood of future break-ins, simply because the event is more available in their memory. This can lead to an excessive investment in home security measures or even influence their choice of neighborhood. The evolutionary psychologist Robert Kurzban has also contributed valuable insights into the availability heuristic, suggesting that this bias might be an adaptive byproduct of our brain's attempt to make sense of the world. According to Kurzban, our minds are wired to respond more strongly to vivid, emotionally charged information, as this type of information was often associated with survival threats in our ancestral environment. While this response may have been beneficial in the past, it can lead to systematic errors in judgment in today's information-rich world. Recent research has further nuanced our understanding of availability heuristic by exploring its interplay with other cognitive biases and emotional factors. For example, studies have shown that people who are more anxious or stressed tend to be more susceptible to the availability heuristic, as their heightened emotional state increases the vividness and memorability of threatening events. One compelling example is the public's reaction to shark attacks versus lightning strikes. Despite the fact that you are far more likely to be struck by lightning than attacked by a shark, the vivid and often dramatized media coverage of shark attacks creates an exaggerated sense of danger, making people overestimate the risk of such events. This phenomenon has significant implications for policymaking and public health initiatives. For instance, in the aftermath of a highly publicized disease outbreak, people may overestimate their personal risk of contracting the disease, leading to unnecessary anxiety and potentially misguided health decisions. My colleagues in the field have observed that understanding the availability heuristic can help policymakers develop more effective communication strategies, presenting risks in a way that is both accurate and accessible to the general public. The interplay between the availability heuristic and emotional factors is another crucial area of research. Studies have shown that individuals experiencing post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, are particularly susceptible to this bias, as their traumatic experiences become highly vivid and memorable, influencing their perception of future risks. This highlights the importance of considering emotional state when assessing risk and making decisions, especially in therapeutic settings where managing anxiety and fear is paramount. Recent advancements in neuroscience have also shed light on the neural mechanisms underlying the availability heuristic. Research using functional magnetic resonance imaging, fMRI has identified brain regions involved in the processing of vivid memories and their influence on decision-making. This includes areas such as the amygdala, which plays a key role in emotional processing, and the prefrontal cortex, which is involved in executive function and rational decision-making. Understanding these neural underpinnings can provide insights into why certain interventions, such as cognitive behavioral therapy, are effective in addressing biases like the availability heuristic. In addition to its implications for individual decision-making, the availability heuristic also has broader societal effects, particularly in how news and media coverage can shape public perception of risks. The phenomenon of availability cascades describes how a compelling narrative or vivid example can create a snowball effect, leading to widespread overestimation of a risk and potentially influencing policy decisions. This underscores the importance of responsible reporting and the need for media literacy, enabling consumers to critically evaluate information and its potential impact on their perceptions. Therapeutic approaches aimed at mitigating the effects of the availability heuristic often focus on cognitive restructuring techniques designed to help individuals recognize and challenge biased thought patterns. By promoting a more balanced view of risks and encouraging critical evaluation of information sources, these interventions can lead to more informed decision-making. Furthermore, incorporating elements of mindfulness and emotional regulation can help reduce the vividness and memorability of threatening events, thereby decreasing their influence on risk perception. One fascinating example is how the availability heuristic influences our perception of safety in different modes of transportation. For instance, after a highly publicized plane crash, many people may overestimate the risk of flying and opt for driving instead, despite the fact that air travel is statistically much safer than road travel. This phenomenon can be attributed to the vividness and memorability of the plane crash, which creates an exaggerated sense of danger in people's minds. Another significant area where availability heuristic plays a crucial role is in financial decision-making. Research has shown that investors often make irrational decisions based on vivid and memorable events, such as a recent market crash or a successful investment story. For example, after the 2008 financial crisis, many investors became overly cautious and withdrew their investments from the stock market, despite the fact that historically, the stock market has provided higher returns over the long term than more conservative investments. This behavior can be attributed to the availability heuristic, as the vivid memories of the financial crisis led investors to overestimate the risk of investing in the stock market. The role of social influence in shaping our perceptions and decisions under the availability heuristic is also an important area of study. When we observe others reacting strongly to a particular event or risk, it can amplify our own perception of that risk, leading to a kind of social cascade effect. This phenomenon is often observed in social media, where sensationalized stories or vivid images can quickly go viral and create widespread anxiety or fear among the public. Understanding how social influence interacts with the availability heuristic can provide valuable insights into how we can mitigate its effects and make more informed decisions. Furthermore, recent research has explored the intersection of availability heuristic with other cognitive biases, such as the affect heuristic, which refers to the tendency for people's decisions to be influenced by their emotions. Studies have shown that when people are in a heightened emotional state, they are more susceptible to the availability heuristic, as their emotions can enhance the vividness and memorability of events. This highlights the importance of considering emotional factors when assessing risk and making decisions, especially in situations where emotions run high. In therapeutic settings, addressing the availability heuristic often involves techniques aimed at reducing the impact of vivid and memorable events on decision-making. For example, cognitive behavioral therapy (CBT) can be effective in helping individuals identify and challenge biased thought patterns related to the availability heuristic. Additionally, mindfulness-based interventions can help reduce the emotional intensity associated with threatening events, thereby decreasing their influence on risk perception. The evolution of our understanding of availability heuristic over time has also been marked by advancements in neuroscience, which have provided insights into the neural mechanisms underlying this bias. Functional magnetic resonance imaging, fMRI studies, have identified brain regions involved in the processing of vivid memories and their influence on decision-making, including areas such as the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex. This research has implications for the development of targeted interventions aimed at mitigating the effects of the availability heuristic. In conclusion, our exploration of availability heuristic has revealed how this cognitive bias influences our perception of risks, shapes our decisions, and impacts our daily lives. By understanding the mechanisms behind availability heuristic, we can develop strategies to mitigate its effects, promote more informed decision-making, and cultivate a more nuanced view of reality. As we navigate the complexities of modern life, it's essential to recognize how availability heuristic can distort our judgments, often with significant consequences. And so, I leave you with this thought: as you go about your day, remember that the most vivid memories are not always the most representative of reality, and it's in the spaces between perception and truth that our greatest opportunities for growth and self-awareness lie. That's all for today's Psych with Sigmund. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, may your ego find balance between pleasure and reality.